Mexico's elections are often painted as vibrant celebrations of democracy. The streets come alive with the colors of the national flag, and the air is filled with the sounds of hopeful chants and music. Citizens line up at polling stations, eager to exercise their right to vote and shape the future of their country. But a darker reality lurks beneath the surface. Behind the scenes, in the shadows of these celebrations, a sinister force is at play, threatening the very fabric of democracy. Drug cartels, with their vast wealth and firepower, exert a chilling effect on the political landscape. These criminal organizations have the resources to influence elections, intimidate voters, and eliminate those who stand in their way. They operate with near impunity, silencing anyone who dares to challenge their authority. Their presence is marked by graffiti and murals that serve as grim reminders of their control over entire neighborhoods. Assassinations of politicians and political candidates have become distressingly common. These targeted killings send a clear message. Dissent will not be tolerated, and those who oppose the cartels will pay the ultimate price. These acts of violence are not isolated incidents. They are part of a broader strategy to instill fear and maintain control over communities and political processes. They are calculated strategies aimed at intimidating, silencing, and controlling. Political rallies, once symbols of hope and change, are now fraught with danger as armed men disrupt gatherings and threaten attendees. The fear is palpable. It hangs heavy in the air, stifling dissent and eroding public trust. Citizens go about their daily lives with a sense of unease, constantly looking over their shoulders. Citizens are afraid to speak out, to report crimes, or even to vote. The threat of violence looms large, discouraging civic participation and undermining the democratic process. The cartels thrive in this environment of fear and silence. They continue to amass wealth and power, exploiting the vulnerabilities of a society gripped by terror. They understand the power of intimidation, and they use it ruthlessly to maintain their grip on power. Their leaders issue orders with impunity, knowing that few will dare to oppose them. The Mexican government faces an uphill battle in its fight against these criminal organizations. Despite efforts to strengthen law enforcement and judicial institutions, the challenge remains immense. The cartels are deeply entrenched, with corrupt officials and a vast network of informants at their disposal. This corruption undermines efforts to combat cartel violence and brings those responsible to justice. The violence has a corrosive effect on Mexican society. It tears apart communities, leaving families to mourn the loss of loved ones and live in constant fear. It undermines the rule of law, erodes trust in institutions, and creates a climate of fear and uncertainty. The judicial system struggles to function effectively, and public meetings are marked by distrust and apprehension. The cartel's influence extends far beyond the drug trade. They have diversified their operations, infiltrating local businesses and engaging in various illegal activities. They have infiltrated local governments, police forces, and even the military. This widespread corruption makes it incredibly difficult to combat cartel violence and bring those responsible to justice. This corruption makes it incredibly difficult to combat cartel violence and bring those responsible to justice. Law enforcement officers often find themselves outmatched and outmaneuvered by the cartel's extensive networks. The international community must do more to support Mexico's efforts to combat drug trafficking and organized crime. This includes diplomatic efforts to foster cooperation and share intelligence. This includes providing financial and technical assistance to strengthen law enforcement and judicial institutions. Advanced technology and training can help Mexican authorities better tackle the sophisticated operations of the cartels. It also means addressing the demand for drugs in the United States, which fuels the cartel's profits. Reducing demand through education, rehabilitation, and stricter enforcement can weaken the cartel's financial base. The fight against cartel violence is not just a Mexican problem, it is a global challenge that requires a coordinated international response. Joint operations and shared resources can make a significant impact in this ongoing battle. Maravadio, a small town nestled in the mountains of Michoacán, stands as a stark reminder of the human cost of cartel violence. This picturesque town, with its cobblestone streets and vibrant community, has been overshadowed by a dark cloud of fear and oppression. During the last election cycle, the town became a symbol of the cartel's brazen disregard for democracy. The once lively town square, filled with the buzz of political campaigns and hopeful candidates, turned into a battleground. Two mayoral candidates were assassinated on the same day. their bodies left in the town square as a gruesome warning to others who might consider running for office. The brutal killings were not just an attack on individuals, but an assault on the very fabric of democracy. The killings sent shockwaves through the community, silencing any remaining opposition to cartel rule. The once vocal and active community members were now paralyzed by fear, their voices stifled by the ever-present threat of violence. Fear gripped the town like a vice. People were afraid to leave their homes, afraid to speak out, afraid to even make eye contact with strangers. The vibrant streets of Maravatio became eerily quiet, as if the town itself was holding its breath. The remaining candidates suspended their campaigns, unwilling to risk their lives for a political office that had become synonymous with death. The hope for change and progress was replaced by a grim acceptance of the status quo. The cartel's message was clear: we are in control here. Their presence was felt in every corner of the town, from the graffiti on the walls to the armed patrols that roamed the streets. The violence in Maravatio is not unique. It is a microcosm of a broader pattern of violence and intimidation that plagues many parts of Mexico. Towns and cities across the country are caught in the crossfire of cartel wars, their residents living in constant fear. The cartels target not only politicians but also journalists, activists, and anyone else who dares to challenge their authority. The brave souls who stand up to the cartels often pay the ultimate price, their lives cut short in the pursuit of truth and justice. The Mexican government has deployed troops to Maravatio and other hotspots in an effort to restore order. The presence of the military brings a semblance of security, but it is a fragile peace, easily shattered by the next act of violence. But the cartels are deeply entrenched, and their influence runs deep. They have woven themselves into the very fabric of society, making it difficult to root them out without causing further harm to the community. The roots of the problem lie in poverty, corruption, and the lack of economic opportunity. These underlying issues create a fertile ground for the cartels to thrive, offering a way out for those with few other options. Until these underlying issues are addressed, the cycle of violence is likely to continue. The people of Maravatio and countless other towns like it deserve a future free from fear, where they can live and thrive without the shadow of cartel violence looming over them. Salaya, a historic city in the central Mexican state of Guanajuato, is known for its colonial architecture and vibrant cultural scene. But in recent years, it has also become synonymous with cartel violence. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel, one of the most powerful and ruthless criminal organizations in Mexico, has waged a brutal campaign of terror in Salaya, seeking to control the city's lucrative drug trafficking routes. Despite the constant threat of violence, many residents of Salaya refuse to be cowed by the cartels. They have organized protests, marches, and candlelight vigils to demand an end to the violence and impunity. They have also formed self-defense groups to protect their communities from cartel attacks. One such group is led by a soft-spoken but determined grandmother named Esperanza. Esperanza lost her son, a police officer, in a cartel ambush. Devastated by grief and outraged by the impunity of her son's killers, she vowed to fight back. She organized her neighbors, teaching them how to use firearms and patrol their community. Esperanza's story is a testament to the courage and resilience of the Mexican people. Despite facing unimaginable violence and loss, they continue to resist cartel rule and fight for a better future for their country. Their bravery is a beacon of hope in the midst of darkness. The relentless violence unleashed by Mexico's drug cartels has forced countless families to make an agonizing decision: flee their homes. These families, often with little more than the clothes on their backs, must leave behind everything they have ever known. Their homes, their communities, and their livelihoods are all left in the wake of their desperate flight, or risk becoming victims themselves. For many, the journey north to the United States, often fraught with danger and uncertainty, represents the only hope of finding safety and security for themselves and their children. The stories of these asylum seekers are heartbreaking. They speak of witnessing unspeakable atrocities, of seeing their loved ones harmed or killed, of being threatened, extorted, and forced to flee for their lives. They carry with them the scars of trauma, the pain of loss, and the fear that they may never be truly safe again. The journey itself is a harrowing ordeal, with many facing extreme weather conditions, treacherous terrain, and the constant threat of violence from both criminals and corrupt officials, and the fear that they may never be truly safe again. The emotional toll is immense, as families are torn apart and children are forced to grow up far too quickly. The psychological impact of such experiences can last a lifetime, affecting their ability to trust and feel secure. One young mother, Maria, fled her home in Guerrero with her 2 young children after her husband, a shopkeeper, was murdered by cartel members for refusing to pay extortion demands. She sold everything she owned to pay for a smuggler to guide them across the border. The journey was perilous, marked by hunger, thirst, and the constant fear of being caught. Maria and her children are now living in a migrant shelter in Tijuana, waiting for their asylum case to be heard. They are among the lucky ones. Many asylum seekers are turned away at the U.S. border, forced to return to the very dangers they fled. The U.S. government has a moral obligation to provide refuge to those fleeing violence and persecution. The process of seeking asylum is complex and often overwhelming, with many facing long waits and uncertain outcomes. Despite the challenges, these individuals remain hopeful, clinging to the belief that they will one day find a place where they can live without fear, forced to return to the very dangers they fled. The U.S. government has a moral obligation to provide refuge to those fleeing violence and persecution. It is a matter of human rights and compassion, recognizing the shared humanity that binds us all. By offering asylum, we not only save lives but also uphold the values of justice and empathy that define us as a society.
So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and let's turn the page on a new adventure together. Get ready to experience books like never before, only on VBook 360. Like, comment, and share to support the channel and keep the video magic alive. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, every video has a story, and every story deserves to be shared. See you in the next video.